I'm going to have to move on quite quickly to Sohan Sahota, co-founder of BAC-IN, a BAME-led alcohol treatment service in Nottingham. So Sohan, can I pass over to you for 5 minutes?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dan. And thank you for everybody that's spoken. Thank you to Dr. Aaron and to Trevor, Ian and Declan. You know, what I'm thinking, well, I'm going to share a reflection of what I've heard. You know, the impact of alcohol addiction on mental health, on family life, on physical life. Alcohol affects people on many, many levels. And I'm a person in recovery myself. I identified that I had a problem with alcohol when I was aged 15 years old, many, many years ago. Started drinking when I was 9 years old. And I drank progressively. There's not a day that I missed in my 20-year, you know, I had bad 19 years of drinking. You know, I didn't have bad days or bad weeks or years, just a whole 19 years. And that left an impression on me. And my mental health was affected. I was passed around psychiatric services, alcohol services. None of the treatment I received was appropriate. It just didn't help me. And I've heard mentioned, you know, the AA program. What kind of worked for me was the AA 12-step program, but also counseling, intensive counseling. And one of the areas that I dealt with in my counseling, what I couldn't do through the 12-step program was the deep-seated trauma, the level of trauma I had received upon my kind of, you know, developmental years. The impact of abandonment, of rejection, of community shame, of cultural shame. You know, being an Indian man, being an Indian young man and drinking, you know, within a Sikh family, it was frowned upon. You know, I'm suffering with the addiction. My family is suffering because they got a young child in the house. But on top of that, the impact of the community frowning upon our family because I was drinking, I was suffering from alcoholism, you know, the lack of understanding, the lack of compassion. And I think about that goes on up to this day. You know, we support the BAME communities, Black and Brown ethnic minority communities in Nottingham. It's a BAME-led, I think Declan was saying, you know, there is a solution. We find solutions, yeah? We are running a peer-led, a lived experience-led service because of the gap, the unmet need within mainstream services. So it's important, I think, the people in recovery, you know, addicts and alcoholics, for example, when they get better, they are assets to society, to humanity, to change itself because the capacity for them to give back, the creativity, the intelligence, the love, the compassion. What I want to share, Dan, is the people that we are helping, once they start their path to recovery, we get to see some phenomenal changes, phenomenal human beings emerging out of the peer-led approach. The peer-led approach is, you know, each one reach one. BAC-IN's peer-led approach is someone who's been abstinent for a level of time and who's gone on to get education and training and become qualified. Then they can support other people. What I want to say is about, you know, the mental health, because this is about men and mental health. Men don't speak. Many men don't speak. But what I didn't speak for 30 years about what I was feeling. The shame stopped me from speaking. The stigma, the fear, the how will I be received by the listeners? How will I be received by the people around me? Will they think less of me? Will they ridicule that, how frightened I felt during my drinking, but under the facade of bravado, under the facade of a tough guy, a tough image, but inside I was frightened, I was scared, I was like a little child. I can't talk about that in front of other people. It's frightening, but I've learned to do it. You know how I learned to do it? You know what worked for me really, really well? Seeing other men, very similar backgrounds to me, talking about that in such a simple way, gave me permission to share the broken pieces in me, the abused pieces in me. The pieces that I hid away for a long, long time, but didn't want no one to see, I was going to take to the grave. Other people I saw sharing. I saw men who share about how they felt. You know, Trevor, Declan, and Ian gave me strength. And you know that strength I pass on to others. Each peer that we help goes on to help another peer. Pay it forward. We've created a BAME-led, a peer-led community across the East Midlands. What I want to share here today, right, it is very, very important, especially within the, I'll speak about the South Asian community, the Indian community before I finish, because I'm from that community. The level of alcohol abuse in these communities is phenomenal, especially during the COVID, and the impact is having on family, like domestic violence, domestic abuse in the last 14, 15 months. And I just want to finish off on this, right, was just to kind of go back to what Dr. Aaron was saying. Some of the symptoms that you've outlined, Aaron, they are heartbreaking. They are so deeply saddening that human beings are impacted by alcohol addiction to these extremes, destroying the whole human body, viscerating the whole body and breaking communities and families. But what I want to finish, when we get the South Asian men coming to our service, you know how far they've got when they got pancreatitis, when they got liver damage, when they got heart disease as a result of drinking. That's when they end up at our door. And we're trying to, we're trying to target the young people. But most of the deaths, alcohol-related deaths within the South Asian communities are between the ages of 35 to 45. The amount of people that are lost in the last decade through alcohol-related deaths in the communities. And I just wanted to say that I wanted to just kind of put a spotlight on other communities that there are big problems, there are gaps in services, and recovery does work. Multiple approach, treatment, counseling, 12-step, whatever a person needs depends on how damaged they are. Recovery can work. Recovery does work. And I think we need to celebrate recovery. We talk about addiction, the impact of alcoholism, but we also need to talk about the power of recovery on mental health. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sohan. Once again, great to get your perspective on these, and thank you very much for talking so honestly.